15 degrees. Night of the East. Setting. The scene represents the throne room of King Cyrus in Babylon. Oriental architecture, luxurious decorations, rich, green hangings. In the east, the royal seat is on a dais with a canopy, and over the throne a sun. Chair and pedestal on dais. Chair for Daniel at the foot of the throne on the left of Cyrus. Cast of characters. Cyrus, King of Persia, age, 60 years. Zina, Master of Cavalry. Daniel, Grand Master of the Palace, age, 80 years. Abazar, Grand Master of Ceremonies. Zerubbabel, a captive, age, 40 years. Zemira, Master of Entrances. Princes, satraps, guards, slaves. Zerubbabel, rich court robe, covered with a sackcloth robe. Chains with links triangular in shape. Guards, appropriate military dress. Spears. Properties. Order, a broad watered green sash, worn from the right shoulder to the left hip. Green rosette at the bottom. Jewel. The jewel consists of 3 triangles, one within the other, diminishing in size, and enclosing 2 naked swords, crossed, hilts downward, resting on the base of the inner triangle. Apron. Triangular in shape. Crimson, lined and bordered with green. 2 crossed swords painted or embroidered on the flap which is green. On the apron, 3 links of a chain, the links being triangular in shape. Below them an arched bridge. On the center arch the letters L, O, and P, signifying liberty of passage. Prologue. A Council of Princes of Jerusalem presents 2 degrees, the 15th and the 16th. These degrees are called historical because they deal with events connected with the closing period of the Babylonian captivity of Israel, the return of the exiles to Jerusalem, and the rebuilding of the temple. In the year BC 586, by order of Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, thousands of the more prominent Jews were deported from Palestine and settled in colonies in various parts of Babylonia. Cyrus the Great, who conquered Babylonia in BC 538 and founded the Persian Empire, issued a decree permitting the captive people to return to their homeland and to rebuild their shrines. Darius I continued this generous policy and gave substantial aid to the returning exiles. Both Cyrus and Darius were disciples of Zoroaster. They believed in one God, who demands righteousness from his worshippers. These religious beliefs, similar in many respects to the faith of the Jews, motivated their considerate attitude toward the captive people. Inspired by such leaders as Zerubbabel, Ezra and Nehemiah, groups of Jews endured the hardships of the long journey, and joined with their loyal brethren in Jerusalem to rebuild the holy city and the temple of their God. The second temple was completed and dedicated in BC 516. In the allegories of the 15th and 16th degrees, we are taught, by the example of Zerubbabel, the important lessons of loyalty to conviction, fidelity to duty and devotion to truth. Allegory. Scene 1. Curtain opens with Cyrus seated on the throne with head bent as in great distress. Guards are in position around Cyrus. Zemira is at his post. Princes, satraps, Abazar and Zina are on stage, huddled in muted but serious conversation. After a few seconds, Abazar advances slightly towards Cyrus. Abazar. Great king, live forever. Your princes and satraps have asked me the cause of your melancholy. Are you silent because we have caused you distress? Command us, O king. When Cyrus is sad, we are all in deepest sorrow. Cyrus seems to arouse himself, as though unconscious of the mood. No, Abazar, anger is far from me. I'm perplexed over a matter which, I hope, concerns only me. Continue your pleasure. Let us have music and forget everything but the joys of loyal friendship. Music by choir, health to King Cyrus, or other appropriate number, during which the courtiers move from one group to another, resuming conversation. Some sit, others gather about them. Cyrus sinks back into thoughtful mood. Song ends. Zemira announces Daniel, Grand Master of the Palace. Enter Daniel walking with staff. He proceeds to the east. Cyrus eagerly, welcome Daniel, as always you come in good season. I almost believe that God has led you to me. Princes, friends, Daniel has the gift of explaining dreams. I had a strange dream last night and you, Daniel, may be able to interpret it for me. Princes and satraps are interested and eagerly listen. Daniel. This gift is not the result of natural wisdom, great king, and if I am favored, it is because it has pleased the grand architect of the universe to bestow it upon me for his purpose. O king, live forever. Tell me your dream, and I will try to interpret it for you. God often speaks once, yes, even twice, yet man does not understand. In a dream, when men are in deep sleep, God speaks. Daniel is seated. Cyrus. Daniel, and you, my friends, this is what I saw in my dream. An angry lion was about to throw himself upon me and devour me, and, while quaking with fear, I looked for some place of shelter. A light suddenly dazzled my sight, and I perceived Nebuchadnezzar and Belshazzar, 2 kings of Babylon, in the garb of slaves and loaded with chains. I heard a voice saying to me, "Loose the bonds of wickedness, undo the heavy burdens, let the oppressed go free, break every yoke." My spirit was troubled, and I awoke. Daniel, are you able to interpret this dream for me? Daniel. Meditates a moment. Your dream was from the grand architect of the universe, who has permitted you to conquer and rule over the East. The captives he has commanded you to restore to freedom are those captives who for 10 weeks of years have suffered in bondage. God wills that you return to them the liberty they formerly possessed, that their property be returned to them, and that the city and temple be rebuilt in all their former splendor. The chains with which Nebuchadnezzar and Belshazzar were loaded indicate that they were the instruments of punishment God wished to inflict on his people. Rises. The lion ready to devour you foretells your fate if you do not obey the voice of the Eternal. The God of Israel will come up against you like a lion, unless you let his people go. Cyrus. Rising in anger. How dare you threaten me in my court? Daniel. Reassuringly. Great king, I intend no offense, but this is how I interpret your dream. Cyrus. Pauses, grows calm and is seated. These may be the words of truth. Your God of Israel, whom we know as Ura, Mazda, may have spoken. If so, God must be obeyed. Slight pause. You are right, Daniel. In my inmost thoughts the miseries of those who were led into captivity by Nebuchadnezzar have weighed heavily upon me. I have no anger against the children of the captivity, for remember, Daniel, many years have passed since the destruction of Jerusalem. You were a young man when you found favor with the Babylonian king. Now, you are an aged man. Here you have established a new home. Daniel. Gently interrupting. No, king, not a home. My aged heart even yet thrills to the memory of Zion, my home. Yet I know that Babylon must be my abiding place until kindly death releases me from earthly bondage and calls me home indeed. Cyrus. Ah, you have voiced my thoughts, Daniel. Few indeed remain of those who were brought from Judah. The captives of today were born in captivity. How do I know that they desire freedom? Think of the terrible desert they must traverse before they reach the land you call home. Think of the perils of hunger, of lawless enemies and savage beasts that will jeopardize their way. Think of the old and the young who must succumb to the hardships and leave their bones to bleach unburied in the wilderness. And when the remnant reach their distant goal, what will they find there? A land laid waste, cities and villages desolated and mined, vineyards destroyed and orchards uprooted, flocks scattered and wild beasts to prey on the unwary. Daniel. All this is true, O king, but it is also true that by the rivers of Babylon we weep when we remember Zion. Cyrus. But, after all these years of captivity, have your people the fortitude to bear the burden and to dare the unknown? This is what has made me doubt. My dream may be born only of my perplexity and not, as you say, of God's will. Slight pause. Oh, that I might have a sign. Zerubbabel. Off stage. How long, O God of hosts, how long shall your children continue to mourn in bondage? How long shall the holy vessels and sacred furniture of the temple be contaminated by the hands of the profane? Have not the 10 weeks of years of the captivity ended? Deliver, oh, deliver, your children from the cruel bondage in which they have so long mourned. When Zerubbabel's voice is heard, all are startled and turn faces towards door. Cyrus starts as he listens. Daniel rises to his feet with excitement and joy. Daniel. With tense excitement. A sign, O king, a sign. Cyrus. Perhaps so. Perhaps so. He voices the lamentations of the people in bondage. But courage? Fortitude? The power to endure? To fight? To labor? Have they these? Stay. I have a plan. Princes, satraps, be patient and watchful. You Daniel, whatever is done, I implore you to be silent. Zina, question him who mourns at our door. If he answers well, admit him to our presence. We shall listen to all that is said. Zina salutes, advances to door, preceded by Zemira, who throws aside the curtain, and then stands to one side. Zerubbabel remains outside unseen. Zina. What is your desire? Zerubbabel. An audience with your sovereign. Zina. Who are you? Zerubbabel. The first among my equals, a Mason by profession and the captive by disgrace. Zina. What is your name? Zerubbabel. Zerubbabel. Zina. What brings you here? Zerubbabel. The tears and misery of my brethren. Zina. What do you intend to do? Zerubbabel. In the name of the Lord God of Israel, to implore the justice and goodness of your sovereign, and humbly ask his grace for my people, who have been in captivity for 10 weeks of years. Zina. What grace do you ask? Zerubbabel. That he will grant us our liberty, and permit us to go and rebuild the city of our fathers and the temple of our God. Zina. Or the king's servants and the people of the king's provinces know that whosoever shall come into the king's inner court who is not called shall be put to death, unless the king shall hold out the golden scepter that he may live. The wrath of a king is as a messenger of death. Zerubbabel. Still, the king's heart is in the hands of the Lord. Zina. You will wait until your request is made known. Zina. Returns to court and addresses Cyrus. Great king, Zerubbabel, a captive and a Mason by profession, asks permission to appear before you. He comes to beg for the liberation of his compatriots who have been in captivity for 10 weeks of years, and asks that they may have permission to go and rebuild the city of their fathers and the temple of their God. Cyrus. If Zerubbabel is so motivated, let him enter. Zina. Returns to door. Enter, Zerubbabel, the king shall be your friend. Enter Zerubbabel with sackcloth covering his court robe, and chains fastened to wrists. Zina accompanies Zerubbabel and returns to his position. Zerubbabel stands before Cyrus. Cyrus. Zerubbabel, I have heard your answers to my master of cavalry. I know of you as a valiant man, honored among many. Why do you appear before me in this mournful garb and loaded with chains? Zerubbabel. Great king, I am a prince of the royal house of David. I have dwelt in the favor of your court, yet I was born in captivity, and from my birth have known the sorrow of slavery. I have bound my limbs with these chains as a token that my people's bondage is mine. Their sorrows are mine. Their prayers are mine. Great king, 10 weeks of years have my people suffered in bondage. Loose our chains, O king, let us depart to the land from which our fathers were taken. Let us build again the city of our fathers and the temple of our God. Cyrus. But you, Zerubbabel, were born in our dominion. You have not suffered the pangs of captivity as many have. Why your sudden interest? Zerubbabel. Too long, O king, have I been silent. But in the ancient craft of masonry, founded by King Solomon, in which many of our people are bound in fraternal unity, I have learned that we are brethren, that the sorrows and shame, the affliction and despair of one, are the concern of all, and in my person, chained and clothed as I am, I stand with and for them, and plead the cause of all. Cyrus. Ancient craft, you say? I have heard of this brotherhood, which you call masonry, and have a strong desire to learn its mysteries. You ask, Zerubbabel, for the liberty of a people who have been slaves for many years. Well, I demand ransom. Instruct me now in the mysteries of your ancient craft. In return I shall grant your petition, and you and your people shall go free. Zerubbabel. The very bargain you propose, O king, is incompatible with the principles of our ancient craft. But beyond this, the obligations into which I have entered prevent me from revealing our secrets and mysteries. If liberty, O king, is to be obtained only at such a price, then we must remain in captivity. Cyrus, reflect well on your refusal. Remember, on you alone depends the liberation of your brethren, and permission to rebuild the walls of your temple. My intention is to decorate you as one of the nobles of my court, and to deliver to you all the riches which were carried away from your country. Grand Master of Ceremonies, conduct Zerubbabel through the treasure apartments of the palace, and show him all the riches which it will be in his power alone to recover. Abusa and Zerubbabel retire toward treasure area. Curtain. Scene 2. Treasure chamber. Can be furnished as elaborately as properties and furniture of the council permit. 7. Branched candlestick, altar of incense, pedestal with bags of gold and loose gold coins, the Ark of the Covenant placed where it can be disclosed on cue. Often, the vessels are simply covered with black cloth and are uncovered on cue. Zerubbabel and Abusa enter, Abusa speaking as they enter. Abusa. Zerubbabel, what is this mystic art you call ancient craft masonry? What secrets are so profound that, rather than disclose, you brave the anger of our mighty king? Zerubbabel. What our belief, and what our mission is, neither words nor time suffice. It is enough to say that should the hand of hate sweep the three great lights from our altar, quenching in darkness belief in God and the hope of immortality, a shrine would still be found in our fraternity dedicated to the brotherhood of man under the fatherhood of God. Abusa. Truly a noble order. But why refuse to tell the king? Consider well how potent is his power. The lives of many men are in his hands, they come and go, they live and die, obedient to his nod. Why not bind this prince to your fraternity by ties which only death can break? What earthly power can then withstand you? Zerubbabel. Persian, it cannot be. We seek not sovereign power. Nor do we care to chain unwilling captives to our cause. To God alone we bend our knee. The man is great, who, with firm faith in God, goes forth to fight the battle of the weak, to shield the innocent and to protect the poor. He knows no fear but fear of his dishonor, and finds his joy, his greatest good, in the promotion of the brotherhood of man. Abusa and Zerubbabel arrive at the place where the sacred vessels and holy furniture are kept, covered. Abusa. Zerubbabel, what is lightly gained is biased least esteemed. We value, then, so much the more your ancient craft secrets because you hold them dearly. Behold, now, how royally we pay for that which we might extort. This gold is yours if you comply. Tosses bags of gold upon the floor by Zerubbabel. Look on the gold, and think of what it is. Gold is the king of kings. Before its throne, monarch and peasant bow. It seals the eyes and dulls the sword of justice. It takes what it demands. Note the poor wretch who starves upon a crust with nothing in all the world to call his own, crawling along the street as though it were a sin for him to live. Whether he lives or dies, what cares the world? But give him gold, and see how eagerly the throng of human insects swarm around, longing to steal some sweets from our tea store. Such is the power of gold. Zerubbabel, think well before refusing. Zerubbabel, who sells himself for gold, barters for years of earthly joy at the cost of his integrity. Away with it. Abusa. Turn your thoughts, Zerubbabel, to where, amid the olive groves, your Rachel is at this very hour kneeling in fervent prayer to God for your return. Will you again enjoy her fond embrace, the sight of your home, or rather by your stubborn folly fall victim before the fury of our angered king? Zerubbabel. Peace. Persian, peace. Should I return dishonored, an ingrate, and a traitor, the eyes which now would welcome me with smiles would turn. Tempt me no more. Life without friends is worthless. Abusa. Zerubbabel, of what tribe are you? Zerubbabel. I am of the tribe of Judah. Solomon, the son of David, was my ancestor, and glorious and wonderful was the temple which he built. There is no temple now. The place whereon it stood is desolate. Abusa. Where would you rebuild your temple? Zerubbabel. From the ashes and crumbling ruins of its predecessor would I see it rise. Abusa. Grand indeed would all this be. But, Zerubbabel, what would the temple be without its sacred treasures? Zerubbabel. Alas. True, indeed. Abusa. Zerubbabel, what became of the sacred treasures of the temple? Zerubbabel. Oh, if only it could be so. Abusa. You shall see them. Slaves, reveal the Jewish treasures. Slaves bring the altar, candlesticks and ark. Slaves exit. Zerubbabel, here are some of the holy vessels that were carried away from the temple at Jerusalem. These shall be given to you, if you comply with what the king asks of you. Altar of incense is uncovered. Zerubbabel looks on with gesture of adoration. Here is the altar on which incense was offered your God in the sacred ceremonies of the temple. 7-branched candlestick is uncovered. Zerubbabel shows increasing emotion. And here is the 7-branched golden candlestick which stood before the veil in the holy temple. If you comply with what the king requires, then you may bear them back in triumph to Jerusalem, be hailed by your people as a deliverer. And now look upon that which was most dear to the heart of every true worshipper at Jerusalem. The most sacred, holy, and mysterious of all the furniture that adorned the temple of your God. Behold the Ark of the Covenant. As the Ark is uncovered, Zerubbabel falls prostrate, overcome by emotion. Zerubbabel, O mighty Eternal, grant me strength to resist this great temptation. Rises, faces Abaz with determination. Persian, no. My God, who is, and was, and ever shall be, shall in his own way restore liberty to the captive, peace to the troubled mind, and the holy vessels in the ark to the people who are under his special care. Again I say, I dare not, cannot, will not, yield. Abaz, unhappy and stubborn man. Come, let us go to the king. Abaz seizes Zerubbabel by the arm, and leads him away. Scene closes and shifts back to throne room. Scene 3. Cyrus on throne. Daniel is there and remains seated but has been listening intently. As scene opens, choir sings. Princes and satraps are at their stations. Abaz and Zerubbabel enter. Abaz, mighty sovereign, I have complied with your order. I have conducted Zerubbabel through all the treasure apartments. I have shown him the sacred vessels, holy furniture and treasure that would be given him on condition that he comply with what your majesty required of him, but his heart resists every temptation. He will not reveal secrets of his ancient craft. Salutes. Goes to station. Cyrus, can you persist in refusing to receive these treasures, and liberty for yourself and for your people? Zerubbabel, can you behold those things unmoved? Zerubbabel, unmoved? No, not unmoved, O king, but I cannot accept them on the conditions you impose. Cyrus, then I will see whether your body will prove as invincible as your stubborn soul. Guards, seize him. Subject him to the ordeal by fire. Guards quickly and firmly seize Zerubbabel, who remains passive but erect. Zerubbabel, great king, I cannot violate the obligation made before my God, though my people and I should gain all you promise. Daniel, who has remained seated and silent throughout, has, nevertheless, paid attention to the events. Now, he rises in a manner appropriate to an old man and with a strong, firm, confident voice addresses Cyrus. Daniel, great king, I beg you, do not carry out your threat, be just in your treatment of Zerubbabel. He has been a quiet and good subject and done nothing to deserve the ordeal by fire. I remind you of the lion in your dream, ready to come up against you unless you let his oppressed people go free. Cyrus. Daniel, your words are timely and well spoken. Guards, release Zerubbabel. My plan has succeeded. I asked for a sign, and truly it has been given. My doubts are resolved. With such courage and determination, with such loyalty and devotion, the captives led by Zerubbabel can return to their country and rebuild their temple. Princes, satraps, let my decree go forth. The captivity is finished. Let Zerubbabel and all his people go free. Guards return to stations. Cyrus continues without waiting for guards to arrive. Grand Master of Ceremonies, removes Zerubbabel's chains and that garb, symbolic of servitude and humiliation. From this moment he and his people are free. Abaz removes sackcloth and chains. Zerubbabel stands in his court robe. I permit you to return to your country, there to rebuild your city, and the temple of the Lord God of Israel. All the sacred vessels, holy furniture and treasures of the temple shall be given to you. I command that every aid be furnished to you, and that from my treasure there be delivered to you sufficient offering for your altar, and whatsoever else shall be needed to render homage to the grand architect of the universe. Approach Zerubbabel, and receive the proofs of friendship and esteem which you so justly merit. Zerubbabel advances, kneels on throne steps. Cyrus rises, scepter in hand. I dub and create you, looks at and addresses other candidates, and each of you, a knight of the East, touches him on right shoulder, then left shoulder, then head. Arise, knight of the East. Go in peace. Zerubbabel. Cyrus, mighty king, as you have decreed, I go with my people to our homeland. May the God of hosts watch over and protect you and your people. Farewell. Music until end of scene. Zerubbabel is about to turn away when he catches the eye of Daniel, who is standing. Both extend arms to each other and advance toward each other. Daniel quickly catches him up and draws him into embrace, Zerubbabel's arm about Daniel's shoulder. Daniel throws arm about Zerubbabel's shoulders and places his right hand on his head, then he raises it to heaven and dropping it makes the sign of Delta. Exit Zerubbabel. Curtain. Obligation. I state your name in full, do solemnly promise and vow that I will zealously assist in rebuilding the holy house of the symbolic temple of Freemasonry, and will, at all times and everywhere, be the advocate of rational and well-regulated liberty and the defender of the rights of conscience against all adversaries. So help me God, and keep me steadfast.